Forward TV. The world is thinking.
And in terms of the way that the market is operating today, if you could describe it in how it might differ from, say, the international modern contemporary sales, would you differentiate in terms of the approach that you have?
We, at this point, are looking at modern and contemporary art as one. I think in India it's quite specific now that in Western concept you have the modernists, and typically they are dead. They are the first half of the 20th century that they represent. In India, the first generation is, in many cases, very much alive. M.F. Hussain, Raza, Ram Kumar. They're all there working every day, like you, Atul, too. So to separate isn't quite as easy. A differentiate contemporary art scene, they're contemporary as well. Maybe their work looks different or from another era to some degree. But so these things are much more complex in a sense. And I don't think it is necessary to divide it too quickly in terms of contemporary and modernist. Also the terminology, if you're using a Western way of looking at it, doesn't quite fit. We have the same in Chinese contemporary. There's 20th century Chinese art, there's post-war contemporary or cutting-edge Asian contemporary. All of these things are maybe more fluid.
Yeah, we often, in Chinese contemporary art, you often use the word experimental to define what is essentially a kind of parallel world system. And often this is the case in a lot of Asian contemporary art, that you have, on the one hand, a whole world of artists who are continuing in a traditional form, continuing a tradition. And the easiest way of identifying that would be, say, the ink painting tradition. There are many, many artists who still continue to modify their works in certain ways, but they really consider themselves as a continuation. Whereas you have, on the other hand, artists who consider themselves part of the international art world. And in Chinese contemporary art, it was often known as the avant-garde or experimental artists. So the terminology, and I would have to say also that Indian critics and curators like Geeta Kapoor are very specific in their criticism of the use of avant-garde when it comes to Asian contemporary art, because if we understand the theoretical idea of avant-garde, which was developed by Peter Berger, there's an idea that the avant-garde came from a very specific set of historical circumstances in the early 20th century. And yet to call another movement, latter 20th century, early 21st century, as avant-garde, it somehow designates it as playing catch-up to the West. So many critics and curators in Asia really feel like this terminology cannot be applied to what's going on today.